Hi. So good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. I'm Nishith Parikh, and I'm the co-founder of Hornback. So today we are going to talk about breaking cycles. Yeah? Not this one. Yeah? Maybe we'll do it, yeah, at the end. So I want to tell you 3 stories of my life, right? 3 stories at different parts, at different times of my life. 3 stories that have been instrumental in shaping who I have become today or who I am today. The first story is in my childhood. As a kid, I was a bad student, okay? As cliched as it sounds, I was very bad. Bad in the context of things or bad in the conventional way. As in class 1, I would never pay attention in class. I was always scribbling, I was doodling, when the whole class was reciting, when we do in school, 6 3s are 18, 6 4s are 24. Here I was, doodling and sketching at 24 frames per second. So my class teacher once, she caught me doodling, and she walks up to me and she peeks over my notebook. And the left side margin, the top header, everything was filled with sketches and animals and all that. And I knew it, ki chalo utho. The usual cycle of going to the front of the class, kneeling down, putting your hands up. I was almost ready. But then she did something very remarkable. She handed me the chalk. I was confused. She's like, yeah, go to the board and draw this animal. I was like, okay. So slowly and very, cautiously, I'm like, oh, this is not a punishment. This is something she's asked me to do. I walk to the board and I draw a cheetah. The cheetah is my favorite animal. It was back then and it is now, like one of the best, engineering marvels of nature. So I drew the cheetah, and then I'm looking at her again, and she's like, the cheetah is running. Why is it running alone? I'm like, oh, it's catching deer, ma'am. Okay, draw the deer. And I drew the deer. Then again I look at her and she says, yeah, where are they running? Ma'am, in the jungle. Yeah, so draw the jungle. And then I started sketching. I did some trees, some rocks, grass, a small pond. I still remember that picture very clearly. Then what she does, she pulls out from her desk, she pulls out a box of colored chalk. Yeah, that's like the gold standard for sketching on a blackboard. And she hands it over to me and says, draw all the animals that you like, draw the jungle. We had a huge blackboard, almost the size of this screen, and I made, for the next 2 hours, I sketched, I colored the animals, and I made the entire jungle, right? My class teacher then walks up to the principal. She goes to her office and says that I want to have an art exhibition, and there's a huge painting in my class, and I invite all the students from class 1 to class 10 to come and have a look. We had 280 students in each class. We had 7 sections of 40 each. So almost 2,500 students came to my class for the next, I think, 2 days to look what I had done. So if you look at it, my class teacher in class 1 broke the cycle of how kids need to be corrected. Like conventionally, if you see someone doodling, back in our time, one whack on the head and like, hey, band kariye. But she broke the cycle, and that gave me the confidence to do what I wanted to. It showed me that I do not need to fit in. It showed me that I have the choice, I have the liberty, and I have the freedom to do exactly what I want to do, whether it fits in the conventional choice or not. So she broke that cycle of correcting, and that for the next 10 years in school, I always stood first in arts and craft, and in fact, in the 10th class, I was the first recipient of 10 years of excellence in art. And that was only because that day, my class teacher chose not to correct me and tell me, draw mat kar, but she just gave me the freedom to do what I loved. So that's one. The second story happens much later in life. It was, like all of you, I also did my mechanical engineering, and as was the norm, I had to do engineering, even though, not really keen, but here I was. And 3 years after my engineering, I was working in our family business, and it was a fairly settled job. I hear a lot of speakers here say about how they had it tough because of not belonging to, coming from a middle class or a lower middle class family. But here I am, where I had a fairly comfortable life, but it was very difficult for me to find purpose. I was not enjoying what I was doing. It was a comfortable life, yes. It was, there's no other worries financially. It was very comfortable. But at the end of the day, it wasn't fulfilling, it wasn't rewarding, and I could never settle. So one day, after office, I was back, 9:30 in the evening, I was just sitting watching TV, and my friend calls me up. He's like, hey, Nishith, jaldi kar pe aa. I'm like, hey, what happened? Yeah. I go and he shows me this on his desktop. He shows me there's this exam where IIT Bombay has a design program. I never knew that such an exam exists, right? He showed me the whole thing, and we looked at the website, and it was exactly what I wanted to do. It was something about creating, it was making new stuff, it was, innovating, inventing, and a lot of those things. And I did not have time to think because that day was the last day to apply. The applications were going to close at 12 in the night. So I applied. Ab apply to kar diya. I have no clue what the exam is. I have no clue what the syllabus is. I have no clue how to prepare. I have no clue. I have no idea. So what do? Next day, I go, I find out some coaching center, and we just go there. The professor there takes me to his cabin, and he hands me an entrance sheet. He's like, this is your entrance exam. Answer these questions. I saw the paper. I had no clue. Whatever, half an hour, 1 hour, I did that thing, and I handed him back the sheet. And he just glanced at it and said, "ए तेरे से IIT नहीं होता. You're not serious. ऐसा तुम कोई भी आदमी मुंह उठा के चले आ गया और उसको IIT नहीं, not possible. You will never get into IIT with this attitude." Imagine, I've been working for 3 years, doing something that I don't like. I finally find something that's interesting to me. I give an attempt. Of course, it was very sad. I must have done very badly. And he says, nahi hoga. I was like, okay. But I chose not to be bogged down by conventions, right? I was like, okay. And then I realized that my first class teacher, who's supposed to be my class teacher, an advocate for discipline, for nurturing students, or to nurture people and make them be in a certain way, she chose to encourage my creativity. And here this guy, who was supposed to be the beacon of creativity or encouraging innovation in the country, just shut me down. So for 3 months, for the next 3 months, I just looked up for papers online. This is back in 2015, so there was social media. I had some conversation with some seniors, and for 3 months I prepared and I gave the exam. And the results came, and I stood 16th in the country. So ranked 16 in the country. There was an interview process, there's some processes, and I got admission in IIT, and I was the 7th rank in that college. Now the funny thing is that this same teacher who told me tere se nahi ho payega found my phone number and he called me. He's like, "Are, give a testimonial that you passed out from our institute. I'll pay you 1 lakh." I was like, what? Like, yeah, just do that. We'll give you a good, he offered me 1 lakh rupees. Like, just, we'll need your photo and you need to write that I passed out from this college. But I was high on breaking the cycle of corruption. Nahi karega. So you kicked me out, I am not going to give you any credit. So that's how, the takeaway that I want to bring to your notice is, Don't look at conventions. कि this is the only way to do things. कि यार ये time गलत है. I was fairly settled, 25, 26, 3 years into my career, moving to a completely different course with no clue, but it was just the passion, right? The burn in the heart. कि यार ये करना है मेरे को. And conventions don't hold true in the long run. Do what you feel like. Break away from those conventions. So that's 2. The third story is about entrepreneurship and innovation. Can you show me a raise of hands as to if anybody is an aspiring entrepreneur, somebody who wants to do a business in the long term? Yeah, I see a few hands over there. Yeah, so maybe this could have some takeaways for you. So this again goes back to IIT. And in IIT, they say that classmates of the opposite gender become life partners, and classmates of the same gender become business partners. So the latter happened with me. I met my co-founder and my partner in crime, I should say, Rajkumar. He's my co-founder, and that's where we met. We bonded over our love and passion for cycling. We used to participate in a lot of cycle rides, a lot of cycling events. We were always there. 3:30 in the morning, we are there cycling. So that's how we got together, and we did a lot of cycling rides, and we had a lot of problems in IIT which we wanted to solve for cyclists. So after passing out, we got together and we thought, let's do this. Let's make something that has never been made before. Let's make something that a lot of people have tried but not been able to find success. So we worked hard, we made prototypes after prototypes. We made a lot of, for 3 years it was intense work. We actually welded the frames. We had a very small workshop where we would, pull all-nighters regularly and just to make the bike that we had dreamed of. So after a certain point of time, we were fairly confident on the prototype, and IIT Bombay has this very nice alumni network. So we just posted a few pictures of one of our prototype, and that got the interest of a serial entrepreneur who was 75 years old, passed out in 1971, to come to Hyderabad and say that, hey, if you guys are crazy enough to build this, I want to support you and let's build this company together. Right? He passed out in 1971, 7-1, right? And we passed out in 17. It was as if he comes and turns our life around, and literally he did that. So his name is Raj Nair, and he then comes to, as I told you, he comes to Hyderabad and we start building this. In 4 months, we built the factory. During the building of the factory, we were not even sure how this product is going to turn out to be. We got shortlisted for Shark Tank. And Shark Tank was another project in altogether. There are loads of things that you need to do, loads of rounds that you need to clear, all while building a factory, all while building a production-ready model, which we were not even sure कि ये बनेगा या नहीं बनेगा. We were all in. We were like, it's either this or nothing. I mean, there's no half-hearted effort. Like, it's full-blown, full steam. We were going inside that. And Shark Tank happened. We were pre-revenue, as in we hadn't started selling on any platform. We were pre-revenue, and despite that, we got one of the highest valuations in funding, despite being a pre-revenue company. And it was only the belief in the product, the belief in ourselves, and the belief of other people or someone who believes in us that, okay, these guys can do it. So you have to break the cycle of not being bogged down by your limitations, wherever you are. And after Shark Tank, the crowning moment happened for us, right? The person who makes the strongest tractors, the strongest SUVs, he decided to invest in our company, right? I get a lot of anand, yeah? When I see him tweeting about our cycle, riding our cycle in his office campus and proudly showing it to people, and as I said, tweeting about it. So a lot of people say there's this dialogue of Amitabh Bachchan ki mere paas ye hai, mere paas wo hai. So I can proudly say that mere paas Mahindra ka support hai. Yeah? so that's how it is. So the takeaway here is you have to believe that things are eventually going to fall right. Things are going to get sorted. In life, we see a lot of cycles. There are a lot of cycles that we need to break from. Cycles of convention, cycles of thought, cycles of limitations, cycles of habit, cycles of health. Lot of things that we need to break from. And if I can break from this cycle, I'm sure each and everyone in this room can. And like I told you, I will break this cycle in the end, so here it goes. Yeah, thank you.